What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm the host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, on as always. And Amanda, a crazy week of football coming up. December football, my favorite time of year, you know?
Oh, I mean, you've been harping all year about how it's your favorite month, and last week was absolutely insane. I mean, somebody almost got fired at halftime. It's been a crazy week, so I'm stoked to see what this week brings. We've got some great matchups coming up.
Yeah, and someone should have been fired at halftime this week. Thursday night football starts out 5-8 Chargers at the 5-8 Raiders. No Justin Herbert, out for the season with season-ending surgery on his broken finger on his throwing hand, replaced by Easton Stick. No Keenan Allen in this game. No Josh Jacobs in this game. So we both thought the Raiders would win, but weren't like thinking a blowout, right? Especially with the Raiders coming off a 0-point performance against Minnesota.
I mean, that Minnesota game was like a weird fluke game. Like it was, just an off day, weird weather. So I don't really count that game against them, but I thought it was going to be a pretty solid beating, especially since the first time they met up, they had very different rosters. Like the Raiders were underperforming, the Chargers were overperforming, and at the time, I mean, Khalil Mack got 6 sacks in that game.
Yeah.
So I knew the Raiders were coming into this like ready to mess him up and taking advantage of Herbert being out for the season. I had a feeling it would be a pretty solid butt kicking. But I mean, they were going after the all-time most points scored by one team in a game in this one. I mean, they were 10 points shy. So they were pretty damn close.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, I thought it was going to be more of a lower scoring game with Aiden O'Connell against Easton Stick. But Raiders, the Chargers with some turnovers that really got the momentum going against them, and then it just snowballed from there, 42 to nothing at halftime. And we were saying, fire Brandon Staley at halftime. I mean, 42 to nothing. That's one of the most lopsided halftime scores I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see the stats on if there's been a worst halftime score, but that was pretty damn bad.
Yeah, and then they were up 62 to 7 early fourth quarter, or 63 to 7 early fourth quarter. They score a couple touchdowns in garbage time in the final 63 to 21. But for Brandon Staley, who's been much maligned for a few years now, to give up the franchise record to the Raiders, 63 points in this game, the writing was on the wall, right? You had to fire him.
Yeah, actually, I just looked it up just to clarify. The 42-0 halftime lead was the second highest in NFL history. In 2009, the Patriots had a 45-point lead over the Titans at the half. So yeah, I mean, the second biggest point deficit at the half in history with
Yeah.
all the other issues the team has had. I mean, he had it coming.
Yeah, and it's not like there's not talent on that defense, so it points largely to the team quitting on the coach, right? Just not giving effort, not showing up to this game at all. Um, and just crazy. I mean, no one would have expected 63 points. Um, and on top of that, a lot of turnovers. And, you had a fumble return for a touchdown, a pick six, just sloppy play from the Chargers, too.
Yeah, it was a rough game, but I mean, we've seen a lot of just bad games and bad play like that by the Chargers this season. I mean,
Hmm.
they've been so dysfunctional. Like, yeah, they've pulled off a few wins, but overall, the team has been so dysfunctional and like there so many miscommunications during games too. So, I mean, I think, I mean, what you said, the writing was on the wall. It was beyond time for him to get the boot.
Yeah, it seemed like Justin Herbert was the only thing keeping that team together. And once he goes down for the season, they just gave up. Um, Aiden O'Connell, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. Zamir White, no Josh Jacobs. It doesn't matter. Devontae Adams, 8 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. And you mentioned, Jacoby Myers out there slinging the ball. He could have probably started at quarterback for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, he had a better QBR. I mean,
Yeah.
he played really well. And it's interesting because you see these players who come into the NFL who played quarterback at college and obviously, weren't good enough to be NFL quarterbacks, and they play these other positions, but I mean, every now and then they pull out that college skill. I mean, he was 2 for 2,
Mm-hmm.
rating of 131.2. I mean, 12 yards, so I'll take it, but it's nice to know that there are teams that have players on the field who do not play the quarterback position, but can if you need them, especially after all the quarterback injuries and issues we've had this season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous going through the list of games this week and every week, seeing how many backup quarterbacks are playing. It's ridiculous this year. Easton Stick, 3 touchdowns, 3 turnovers. Joshua Palmer, 4 catches, 113 yards and a touchdown. For the Raiders, they improved to 6-8 and snapped their 3-game losing streak. They're not technically eliminated from the playoffs yet, and Max Crosby and other guys in that locker room still talking about, hey, we're competing. We're not eliminated yet. We're still competing, trying to make a playoff run. Credit to Antonio Pierce. You know, their record isn't where they want it to be, but he's got that team playing hard, right, and still believing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can put up 63 points in a game, like at least your offense can click even without your best running back.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was 8 different players with touchdowns in this game. So there's a lot of, talent in this game. It was nice to see it come together. I mean, the Chargers we've talked about all season having a lot of individual talent, but not being able to pull it together into a team win. But the Raiders are figuring out how to do that. So it'll be interesting to see if, this kind of holds and if Pierce has really pulled the team together, or if it's, just kind of a late season streak and then we'll see him fall apart later and then, try to build on that next year. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with them.
Yeah, and the Raiders had an opportunity to with who was the old Packers special teams coach that took over for the Raiders interim. Remember him? And they could have kept him and signed him to a long-term deal, but didn't. I think he got him into the playoffs when Derek Carr was on the team.
Was
Rich
that
Bisaccia.
Rich? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, is
And
it the Italian last name I can't pronounce?
and Antonio Pierce is doing the same thing, keeping them competitive. I would like to see this team keep Antonio Pierce. He's a former Compton guy. He grew up a Raiders fan, and the players respond to him. Why not give him the long-term head coach deal, right?
Well, and the players have been campaigning for that. They have, stated their opinions. They've come into team meetings and, they've kind of let the players speak and take over these, team meetings and run them and say what they needed and what they expected and what they wanted to change, which is great because I mean, early in the season we saw complaints from amazing wide receiver Devontae Adams about how he wasn't happy and he wanted to be traded. And it seems
Mhm.
like they're listening to their players and now everyone seems happy. They're clicking. I mean, 63 points on offense. If the players are asking you to keep the guy who is currently head coach and who's having success, I mean, I would be shocked if they don't listen to him for at least a
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they do. For the other side, the Chargers today, after that game, they fired GM Tom Telesco. They fired head coach Brandon Staley. Both good moves. About time. Staley goes 24-24, exactly 500 in his 3 years as Chargers head coach. One playoff appearance, but in that playoff appearance, blew a 27-point lead to the Jags. Um, so obviously, that didn't work, and he's probably going to have to go back to coordinator somewhere to rebuild his resume. A lot of talk about who the next head coach should be for the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh was mentioned immediately, but another name, something to keep an eye on, legendary coach Bill Belichick. What about that? With that defense, with Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Kenneth Murray, Asante Samuel Jr. How about Bill Belichick coaching that team?
I would love to see that team have a coach who can pull that talent together because
Yeah.
I mean, how many all pros do they have on that team? Like their numbers individually are insane. Like we know there's talent on that team and they did a great job like pulling people to the team who can perform on defense. But yet, I mean, they're letting offenses put up 63 points. So it's got to be very frustrating to be on that team and just not have the leadership to build them into a functional you know, just they should be a force right now and they're not. And it's got to be so frustrating.
Yeah. And a lot of people are talking about they're wasting Justin Herbert, right? And he's in a bad situation where he's putting up numbers and playing his hardest, but not winning games. And along with Bill Belichick, he's a terrible head coach, but he's won 6 championships as a assistant. Bring Josh McDaniels along potentially, or even Bill O'Brien as OC, and give Justin Herbert some stability there. So I think Bill Belichick is definitely a name to watch here for the Chargers. And let's let Jim Harbaugh go to the Bears.
No. I'm really curious to see what Belichick's statement is at the end of the season if they, do officially announce that they're parting ways, like what his intentions are and what he states, because we know how Belichick interviews go. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm real intrigued to see like how he states like what his plans are moving forward in his, monotone, expressionless way. So I'm very excited for that interview.
Yeah, either way, whether he goes to the Chargers or not, that's going to be one of the biggest stories at the end of the regular season is what's going to happen with Bill Belichick. He's likely gone from New England. And does he go to the media? Does he still want to coach? And you can't think of a better name in coaching to hire if you're looking for a spark to your franchise than a name like Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but I mean, we saw him on the stand last week. Was it last week? And he was more animated than we've ever seen him. Like he seems to like the broadcast side of things, shows his
Hmm.
personality a bit more, gets a little feisty. So I mean, maybe he's ready to move on.
Yeah, he looked pretty cool rocking that Navy helmet, huh?
hmm We like
Uh,
that.
um, so yeah, either way, he's going to be great at whatever he does. I'm a big Bill Belichick fan, and uh, you know, rooting for him whatever he does. Let's get to our picks this week, and I can't wait. Tomorrow we got 3 great games. This is another reason why it's my favorite time of the year because now we get Saturday NFL. We're gonna have bowl games. We're gonna have 3 windows of NFL games, and I'm just gonna sit back and watch football all day tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, some of these matchups tomorrow are really good, like evenly matched teams as well.
Mm-hmm. And so 7-6 Vikings at the 7-6 Bengals. On paper, if you don't know, what you're looking at, you're like, this game sucks. Nick Mullins against Jake Browning. But 7-6, 7-6, both teams fighting to stay alive in the playoff hunt. Jake Browning's been on fire since coming in for Joe Burrow. And Josh Dobbs got benched last week, demoted to third string, so it's going to be Nick Mullins with a backup rookie Jaron Hall. Uh, all signs point to the Bengals at home here, but Justin Jefferson is expected to play. Interesting game here. How are you seeing this one?
So, I mean, Minnesota has their ongoing quarterback crisis, which we've seen, since Cousins went out. But
Hmm.
I mean, their offense, I mean, Jefferson's in and out of games. Madison isn't playing if I've up on the news there. So I mean, he's got, you know, Jefferson partially in the games and then Hawkinson, but there's not a ton else going on in that offense. But I mean, Cincinnati, they've got a quarterback resurgence, but we have seen them get a little full of themselves and then lose some games where they face a good defense. So I think it's going to be, interesting. I do think that Bengals defense is playing a bit better than we've seen them early in the season. So I'm intrigued about this matchup. I haven't fully leaned one way or the other. But I mean, Nick Mullins played really well in the fourth quarter last week. So I mean,
Yeah.
granted, the game ended with a 3-0 score, but I mean, he stepped in and put points on the board, which was all anyone could ask in that game. So I'm not entirely sure. I know Kevin O'Connell's hopeful that Justin Jefferson is playing. They say he's probable at this point, but I mean, he seems quite injury prone this season, so I wouldn't trust him to stay in a whole game.
Yeah, they're hoping that he can go. I mean, Justin Jefferson trying to play, and he knows that the playoffs are on the line, and the Lions, to that point, have opened the door in that division. So if the Vikings can muster a run here late in the season, they play the Lions twice. Maybe they can backdoor their way into a division championship and host a playoff game. So, big game for both teams. Can Nick Mullins provide a spark for that offense? They haven't scored a touchdown now in 2 straight games, hence the Josh Dobbs benching. Um, I the Vikings defense is nasty. They're playing a really good football of late. Brian Flores has them competing. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. And my gut, I'm riding with the Vikings here because I'm rooting for Minnesota because of the NFC North story. But also my gut says at some point, Jake Browning isn't Jake Brady, like you like to say. I don't think that he's going to continue to ball out. Like we've seen, Josh Dobbs put together 2 performances in Minnesota where he looks unstoppable. And eventually everything comes back down to earth. And I think against this Vikings defense is a good day for that to come back down to earth. Do you agree with that?
I was just going to say, I mean, there's something to be said for beginner's luck, and we've seen quarterbacks step in, have a couple great games, and then, I mean, Josh Dobbs, like you said, and against this defense, I mean, this defense over the past 8 weeks for Minnesota has led the NFL in fewest points allowed per drive, fewest points allowed per game, and I mean, their red zone offense has been insane. So if they can, take advantage of the fact that the Bengals allow the most receptions and yards to tight ends and just
Yeah.
really get Hawkinson in there and, let him do his thing, I think the Vikings can pull this one off. I do think it's going to be a scrappy matchup. I think it's probably going to be, one of those like 17-20, 17-21 kind of relatively low scoring, maybe 14-17, a pretty strong defensive showing, but I do think the Vikings have the slight edge as well.
Yeah. So are you picking the Vikings?
I'm kind of leaning that way. I want to go opposite you, but last week I did that a couple times just to add our picks to mix them up
Mm-hmm.
a bit. But I do think, I mean, I think that Hawkinson kind of gives them the edge, and their defense is definitely the better defense. So between the two, I'm real close. I'm on the edge there. I don't know.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be a hard fought game. It should be a lot of fun. No blowouts here. It should be a good back and forth, hard fought battle. And yeah, I know you're nervous about that 6 game lead evaporating, so I can understand
I mean, I,
it.
I've lost what one game over the past month and a half. I'm not really that concerned.
Well, are you concerned about my boy Maserati Mitch coming into Lucas Oil and taking down your Colts?
Okay, first of all, not my Colts. Second, my pick in this game is the Steelers, so we can duke that out. I was surprised to see so many people taking the Colts.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
Um,
I know that we've, seen them the past month, right? We're not the only people who have seen them kind of sucking for the past month, right?
Well, it's overreaction to the Steelers losing back-to-back weeks to 2-win teams. That's what it is. And you know how the NFL, we talk about it all the time, how reactionary everybody is. It's a week-to-week league, and everyone's convinced that the Steelers can't win a football game right now.
I mean, they had a rough couple weeks, but they were also going through a situation with their quarterbacks, but also so the Bengals snapped the Colts 4 game win streak last week, but I mean, before that, they were questionable. I mean, they had to go into overtime against the Titans.
Hmm.
They beat the Buccaneers on a very, very off game. Like they beat the Patriots and the Panthers. No one is impressed by either of those wins.
And they could have lost all of those. They could have lost to New England. They could have
I mean,
lost to
maybe not the
Tampa.
Panthers. That was a solid 14 point. Yeah, but they were all
Yeah.
close games with like potential comebacks. Then they barely scrapped out wins. So yeah, they were on a 4 game win streak, but the Colts aren't good. Like,
Yeah. And
yeah, so
since he blew them out by 20, it wasn't even close.
I was surprised to see all of like the ESPN experts picking the Colts. Like it was Colts across the board.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you're showing your football IQ here with these picks. I agree with you. Steelers in Indy, a lot of people are taking the Colts. I'm taking Pittsburgh. No Jonathan Taylor once again, and I just feel like the Steelers are scrappy. They're not going to lay down and give up. Mike Tomlin, he refuses to finish a season with a losing record. And they could have, if they kicked a field goal last week, that game would have gone to overtime against New England, and they could have pulled that one out. I think they play smarter and better and find a way to win this one in Indy. I believe in the Steelers team more than I believe in the Colts, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I mean, the Steelers have won 8 consecutive games against the Colts, including regular season and postseason. So I
Yeah.
mean, the Colts last one in 2008 when Peyton Manning was there. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and this is prove it time for Indy too. Like the division's open. It's late. It's December. You win now, Gardner Minshew, and you lead these Colts to the playoffs, and everyone's going to be singing your praises. Can he do it? Right against a good Steelers defense.
yeah, well, I mean, the Colts are getting a bit of a boost back as well. I mean, cornerback Juju Brents is back in. He's been out a couple weeks with that quad injury. Linebacker EJ Speed, they're both full participants at practice again this week. So I mean, they are both huge contributors to Gus Bradley's defense. So that should give him a bit of a boost. But I mean, you and I have both agreed that Minshew magic is over. And in
Yeah.
games where they should pull off like a very strong win, they barely pull off a win. So
Hmm.
I don't trust them. I think the pressure is going to get to them, and I very much would put my faith in banged up Steelers more so. I mean, TJ Watt fighting injuries, Alex Highsmith, like, but I mean these guys are players. I mean, they will go out there injured and be bleeding and not care. So I think the concussion protocol situation is a bit vague right now. I haven't seen an official announcement on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Um,
you've seen one there yet or not, but
I
it looks
haven't.
like they're supposed to play.
I think Alex Highsmith might be out, but I'm pretty sure T.J. Watt is playing. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't seen anything definitive, but I expect them to go. And
So Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Alex Smith, Highsmith, and TJ Watt have no injury designation and are expected to play against the Colts. That's on
good.
ESPN right now, today's update at
Yeah, and
5 today.
feed Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. That's the recipe for the Steelers winning here. I trust the Steelers running game over the Colts without Jonathan Taylor. That's what it boils down to as well.
Agreed. And a storyline to keep an eye on here. Colts receiver Michael Pittman Jr. He is 18 yards shy of 1,000 yards. He would be the fourth Colts player with multiple seasons with 1,000 yards in receiving, joining Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and T.Y. Hilton. So that's
Nice.
a fun story to kind of keep an eye on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, how about Broncos Lions? This is the game of the day tomorrow. I'm gonna have my popcorn, my pizza, beers all around me, ready to go for Broncos Lions.
So I'm assuming you're picking the Broncos here because
Absolutely.
you and I have gone back and
Absolutely.
forth a lot here. The I was gung ho to pick the Broncos after last week when the Broncos and the Lions both did their thing, whatever. I mean the Lions got their butts kicked by the Bears, which is not a good look, but it's a divisional game, so we know those can be interesting. But the Lions have given up at least 26 points in 5 straight games. And
Mm-hmm.
against that Denver defense, I worry about them being able to score enough to overcome that. But
And
also,
protect the football.
on the other side, the Broncos have
Yeah.
the worst run defense in the NFL, and arguably Detroit has the best 1-2 punch at running back in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be some interesting kind of back and forth here. So I'm intrigued to see who wins that. If the run defense kind of steps it up and the rest of the defense has, been working with them over the past week on how to stop the run, or if those running backs just run through that Denver D. I'm not sure.
I am pretty confident here. I am excited for this game, and anything can happen, right? Like the Lions are capable of winning this game, but based on all of my lifetime of watching football, December and the Lions do not mix. And
Hmm.
the door is slightly open in that division, and a loss here would fling it wide ass open because then you got 2 games against the Vikings in the last 3 games. A Vikings win tomorrow and a Lions loss, and all bets are off in the NFC
Hmm.
North. In a division that we thought Detroit had wrapped up. Even I was saying that, oh, the Lions are going to win the division likely, but can they win in the playoffs? Now, in a weak division where 9-8, 10-7 might get you in, the Lions, if they don't win the division, might miss the playoffs entirely. So it's a lot riding on this game, and the Broncos come in hot, winners of 6 of their last 7. The Lions come in cold, losing two of their last three. And you mentioned the Lions defense giving up a lot of points. But to me, the most glaring issue is the turnovers, and the Lions haven't fixed it. They had one game against the Saints where they went turnover free, played the Bears again, three turnover game.
Yeah,
And that does,
over the past 4 weeks, that's 10 giveaways.
yeah, 10 giveaways, and that doesn't include turnovers on downs, which they love to do as well.
Yeah,
I've
constantly.
been I've been telling Lions fans since October, even late September, that all these turnovers is not sustainable. Going for it on fourth down over and over again is not sustainable, and we'll see what happens on Saturday night. But Lions fans and the franchise are going to be feeling a lot of pressure to win that game. It's almost a must-win for Detroit.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of pressure, I mean, Jared Goff is going to be feeling pressure. That Broncos defense has 20 sacks and 18 takeaways over the past 7 games. So, I mean,
Yeah.
compare that to the numbers of giveaways that the Lions have had. I mean, Goff is going to get banged up in this game. I mean, only 2 teams have sacked Goff at least 4 times and had at least one interception in the same game this season. But this is going to be a real tough game for Goff. I mean, I'm sure he's going to throw at least 3 interceptions in this one. And then something else that's interesting in this matchup, Dan Campbell kind of came to his own and kind of, grew into the NFL coach that he is now under his mentor, Sean Payton. So we get
Mm-hmm.
to see kind of a little mini reunion. I mean, Campbell spent 5 years there as an assistant coach, assistant head coach and tight ends coach. So, we get to kind of see how he's learned from his mentor, and I'm assuming that the mentor will pull this off because we don't see as many glaring mistakes and concerns in Sean Payton's coaching style. I mean, it took him a while to get going this season, but I mean, if we're going to trust one or the other, I'm pretty sure everyone's money is going to be on Sean Payton.
Yeah, me absolutely. I trust Sean Payton and Russell Wilson over Dan Campbell and Jared Goff 8 days out of the week. And there's going to be pressure on this game, and I expect a multiple turnover game from the Lions and the Broncos to just play better. They're peaking at the right time. The Lions are not, and it sets up perfectly for a very interesting end of the season in the NFC North. So give me the Broncos in Detroit.
Okay, I agree with you there. I thought we might disagree a bit more this week so far, but we'll see. And I mean, Cortland Sutton has been on such a hot streak with his connections with Russell Wilson. I mean,
Yeah.
he has been playing so well. So unless something happens and there's an injury that takes him out of the game, I mean, compare those defenses. I don't think Detroit's going to have what it takes to stop them.
And in the AFC West too, the door has been cracked open over there as well. Just a one-game lead for the Chiefs in that division. So the Broncos have an opportunity in front of them as well.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to watch that. So
Yeah.
speaking of, AFC matchups and, the NFC North that we've been chatting about, Bears are 5-8 going into the Broncos or to the Browns who are 8-5. I know that the Bears are kind of riding that we beat Detroit high right now. I mean,
Hmm.
we've seen Fields have some great matchups, great plays. Him and DJ Moore have been insane. Like their connection has been so good. Some of the best plays of the season between the two of them. How are you feeling about this matchup?
I think this is a bad matchup for the Bears. This is an elite Cleveland Browns defense. And speaking of elite, they got a quarterback that's pretty elite over there too, and Joe Flacco. I'm the best story in football right now is the Cleveland Browns with Joe Flacco, and how far can he take this team along with that defense and running game? In Cleveland, this is a Browns type of game. I got the Browns winning this one. Chicago is, 2-game winning streak, won 3 of the last 4, but I don't see that happening here. The Browns are the better team, and the Browns are playing for much more. The Bears are just playing for pride at this point, and it's a bad matchup for Chicago. I think Cleveland wins this one.
I will say Chicago's defense has really stepped up.
Hmm.
Over the past 5 games, they have allowed 223 passing yards or fewer in each of those games. And then they've forced 11 turnovers in their last 3 games. So
Yeah.
Chicago's defense, I mean, overall over the season, looking back, like their numbers aren't that great, but the past month or so, they've been really coming into their own. So getting a bit stingier on that pass defense. So, I mean, Flacco is facing a bit more of an issue with the Chicago defense with how they've been playing versus how Jacksonville played this past week. So I'm intrigued to see if Chicago can keep that going or if they've just, kind of had a couple lucky games there. But I mean, Myles Garrett, I think Justin Fields is in some trouble there.
I do too. Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, all those, that line is nasty.
So
Fields is gonna be running for his life. That Bears O line isn't that great. Run the ball, take the pressure off of Fields. And I'm actually kind of rooting against the Bears here because I don't want to give this management, this ownership, any belief or confidence in this coaching staff. I don't, you go on a late run that doesn't mean anything, and suddenly they went, "Oh, let's extend Eberflus and let's keep Luke Getsy." No, get those clowns out of here. Let's lose out the rest of the season so we can go hire a real head coach.
yeah, do you know what happened the last time these two teams matched up to Justin Fields?
Yes, I do, and that is part of the reason Fields has struggled in his entire career. You start him against the Browns, his first career start, and get him sacked like what, 9 times?
Yeah, so Myles Garrett had almost as many sacks. He had 4.5 sacks, as Justin Fields had completions. He had 6 completions in that game.
Yeah.
2021, I mean, Justin Fields, that poor kid. Like, I felt so bad in that game. Like, they were just beating him up. And, we don't expect out of a rookie in their first start. So we'll forgive that. But I mean, he's been playing so well since coming back from that injury in week 11. He's, 2/3 completion rate. He's completing 2/3 of his passes. That's phenomenal. 3 touchdowns, 609 passing yards in his past 3 games. I mean,
he's been balling. I'm rooting
he's
for
been
Justin Fields
balling.
like crazy. Yeah,
I'm rooting for him personally, but I definitely think the Browns are the better team in this matchup.
I agree. And at home, it's probably gonna be cold and windy. Advantage Browns.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about your team. You want to chat about my teams, I guess. So we got the Bay matchup.
Your
Tampa Bay
team's
versus Green
plural, yeah.
Bay. So, I mean, obviously the Packers are my team. I'm a cheesehead forever, but everyone who's been listening to this podcast knows I love Baker Mayfield. I've been rooting for him. I think he was underappreciated and scapegoated in his previous 2 locations. And I am ready for him to, get the opportunity he needs and have the team built around him. And Tampa Bay has really been doing that. So right now, they're technically in first place in the NFC South. We've seen a lot of inconsistency from them. I mean, defensive injuries have really plagued them this season. Green Bay, their injury list is always ridiculous. But Baker plays pretty well at Lambeau, and the Packs defense, I mean, with those injuries, I think Baker could take advantage of that. But I think that they had an off week last week against the Giants, and the Packers are going to be kind of pissed off. And I think they come back and pull this one off.
Yeah, and I mentioned it a little bit ago how, suddenly the Packers are playing better and they're in, contention. They're trying to go on a playoff run. This is where Alex does an about face and stops rooting for the Packers. Baker Mayfield, baby, he's going to wake up feeling dangerous. He's going to go into Lambeau and he's going to beat your Packers. Give me Baker and the Bucks to get a big road win here.
And I mean, so Alex and I messaged back and forth a lot during the week. I was telling him that I wasn't going to pick either team and I was going to hide under a blanket. And then I sent him a gif of a guy holding 2 babies and just switching, like looking back and forth between the 2 babies. These are my babies, man. Like, and with the Packers, I had no expectations this season. But I mean, when they went on that 3-game win streak and then got their butts kicked last week, like the loss to the Giants was the most animated I have been with my TV so far this season, because what the fuck was that? Like, how you gonna lose to a guy who lives in his mommy's basement? Come on. So, the Bay battle here, I'm gonna pull for my Packers. I will still, be kind of okay if the Bucks win, but I mean, turnovers have been such an issue for Green Bay. Like during that 3-game winning streak, they had no turnovers. 3 Monday night. I mean, obviously we can see that our run defense is an issue as well. It has been for years. Our special teams, had we made that other field goal, we would have, the game would have been tied. But
yeah,
I think the Packers are gonna come back in this one, do enough to pull off a win. But the Buccaneers have been really, really warming up at the right time. I mean, Rachaad White has really been hitting his stride.
yeah.
And Green Bay has given up rushing yards like nobody's business. So I'm a pull for Green Bay, but I could easily see this one going either way.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because you're forced at this point to start believing and picking the Packers in this situation. I just know it. They're at home, playoffs on the line, looking for a big bounce back win. You're going to take Green Bay, so I'm going to take Tampa and root against your Packers. I feel at home doing that. And the big question here is the injuries. Aaron Jones is back at practice. AJ Dillon, Jair Alexander, all of them are questionable. So we'll see who plays out of that. And the same thing for Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin, Devin White, Vita Vea, all game time decisions. So we don't know exactly who's playing and who's not. And those are all big key players. So that's going to factor in a lot. I think the majority of people are going to ride with Green Bay in Lambeau. It makes sense, but I'm rooting and I'm going to pick Tampa Bay here for the road win, and it's a big opportunity for Tampa to take another step forward in winning that division and hosting a playoff game. And so let's go Baker.
Well, and I would like to see Baker perform differently at Lambeau than he has previously. So this is his third year in a row that he's come to Green Bay, his third different team. In those past two matchups, he has thrown 5 interceptions, 4 in 2021 with the Browns, 1 last season with the Rams. So, he has a history of being turnover friendly in Lambeau. Meanwhile, the Packers, we've only grabbed 6 interceptions this season. So, I mean, I hope he has a cleaner game. I hope they, still lose, but I think Baker has come a long way on his journey since Cleveland. So that's, like I said, I think it's a very close matchup. I expect this to be a pretty close game. I expect it to be a good game. I think both teams are going to show up. They're both kind of like realizing they're in the mix. I mean, Tampa Bay's division is a hot mess, but I mean, you're in the mix at 6-7. You technically lead your division right now. So a lot of interesting matchups here. I mean, Tampa Bay's O-line, their pass protection has kind of been below average, but they had the highest pass block rate among all teams last week. So if they can keep that up, Baker Mayfield has a shot. But also, Jordan Love is great against the blitz. He's 4th in QBR against the blitz this season, and Tampa Bay blitzes the 3rd highest in the NFL. So we've got some interesting, stats and stuff, and they'll come to a head here, and we'll see who pulls it off. But go Pack, go!
Yeah, and I think another nugget here is the Bucks can almost afford. They don't want to lose this game, but they can afford to lose this game and still be very much in the hunt in that division, and still find a way to pull off the win in that division. If Green Bay loses, they're out pretty much, right? They can't. Packers cannot afford to lose this. Tampa Bay, it would suck to lose, but they're still alive. That's how I see it.
Yeah, so I feel like Green Bay's heart's going to be in it a bit more.
Yeah.
But then again, Tampa's going to just be out to wreck Green Bay season. So
Yeah.
we'll see. All right, so we differ on that one. You want to talk Texans at Titans?
Yeah, this game is going to be fun. And for Houston, they're really up against it in this one. No C.J. Stroud with concussion protocol. No Nico Collins. No Will Anderson Jr. We know Tank Dell's out for the season. The one bright spot is they're getting Dalton Schultz back, but it's going to be Davis Mills at quarterback. In Tennessee, Will Levis, Derrick Henry, D-Hop all playing for the Titans, and they're coming off a morale-boosting big win in Miami against a playoff team and quote-unquote contender, according to some people. Give me the Titans at home here to beat the Texans.
I picked the Titans too, and I'm kind of surprised we agree on this one. I mean, the Texans just got their pants beat off by the Jets. Like, I just don't trust him here. And I mean, with all those injuries, that's really, really going to hurt him. And away from home, the Texans have gone 2-4 this season. So that plus all those injuries, I've seen a lot of people picking the Texans in this matchup, and I just don't see it. I mean, maybe we'll be shocked and, Davis Mills will pull it off, but I cannot pick against the Titans at home here after, how both of their matchups went last week.
Yeah, and the injuries are a big reason why. If you told me Stroud, Nico, and Will Anderson were all playing, then give me the Texans. But those injuries are huge. I don't trust Davis Mills. He's 5-19 as a starter in the NFL, so no confidence there in him. And Will Levis and D Hop, are balling. They got a great connection going, and Derrick Henry just went for 2 touchdowns last week. He's still a monster.
Yeah, that was his
Yeah.
third straight game to do that. Also, no NFL player has rushed for multiple touchdowns in 4 straight games since LDT did it back in 2020 or 2006 in 8 consecutive games. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this could be his fourth game. In a matchup like this, I'm gonna stick with whoever's got Derrick Henry and D Hop. I mean, especially
Yeah.
with the quarterback situation. So, yeah, absolutely rolling with the Titans here.
Yeah, we agree with that one. And now let's go to Jets at Dolphins, which a lot of people are going with the Dolphins here and looking for a big, crucial bounce back win. A terrible blown lead loss to the Titans that they had in the bag and couldn't close the deal. And don't look now, but those pesky Buffalo Bills are sneaking up on Miami, and they face Week 18. Do the Dolphins take care of business here, or do the Jets, who, a 30-point outburst in the second half last week, have the Jets found a spark with Zach Wilson version 2.0?
I mean, the Jets got beat up the first time these two teams matched up. But I do know that Zach Wilson is, playing a bit better. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to be a much closer matchup. I do think Miami will probably pull off a win here. Um, but I mean, he had a great week last week, Zach Wilson. I mean, 301 yards passing. I mean, 30-6 victory over the Texans. That was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyreek Hill has that ankle injury situation going on. And even if he plays, he's injured. So it's, he's not quite 100%. And he is their offense. I mean, he should be absolutely in the MVP conversation. Like, forget about Tua. Like, he doesn't deserve to be up there unless Tyreek is up there.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna roll with the Dolphins here. I mean, they have the second ranked rushing offense. So despite receiver injuries, I think their rushing might be enough to cover it. But their O linemen are really, really banged up. They've combined to miss 21 games this season to injuries. So I don't know. How are you feeling about this one? Have you made a pick here?
Yes, I have. To your point, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achan, Jalen Waddle, those guys can step up and will need to step up with Tyreek Hill's ankle injury. We'll see if he even plays. I think he will try to toughen it out and play through it, but I don't expect him. He's speed, right? He's all speed, and with an ankle injury, that's going to limit him a bit. And plus, the Jets' defense, the score indicates that the Dolphins ran away with that Jets game the first time on Thanksgiving, but you
But they
take
played
away
Tim
that.
Boyle.
Yeah, it was against Tim Boyle, and you take away that pick six Hail Mary right before the half, and the Jets were right in that game. So, and on top of that, Tua threw 2 interceptions and a pick six himself. This is a game that's setting up with a not quite 100% Tyreek, less than 100% Tyreek, and Tua, against a very good Jets defense and a Jets team that's suddenly playing with a little bit of confidence. Give me the Jets in Miami on Sunday.
Okay. I could have kind of gone either way on this one. Zach Wilson he's started twice against Miami and lost both.
Yeah.
So I was kind of on the fence on this one. I'm probably 55% sure Miami will win here, but I could see this easily going either way. It depends on, if Miami finds a way to overcome those offensive injuries and if the Jets show up and actually, get that defense going, and if Zach Wilson has another good game, which they're very hot and cold. So I'll be intrigued to see how that goes. But I mean, that Jets defense is real mean to quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
And me and you won't be. I mean, if the Jets win this, they could get to 6-8. They could go on a 2-game winning streak and build confidence. Next week they'll play the Commanders at home, another winnable game. Let's say they get to 7-8. The Aaron Rodgers window starts to open up. And does 9-8 get you into the playoffs? It's a very competitive AFC, so hard to say. But and the Bills are rooting for the Jets like crazy here because Another Dolphins loss, 2-game losing streak for Miami potentially. A lot of storylines going on in this game. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I might recant my pick and pick the Jets, guys. Just pending there. I'm not rooting for Miami in this game, and I have a really hard time picking the team I'm rooting against.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you posted on that one. But let's talk Giants at Saints. I mean, the Giants right now, I'm pretty pissed off with them. Beat up on my Packers, but right now they're 5-8. The Saints are 6-7. New Orleans didn't play offense last week. I mean, technically they played offense, but I mean, that was such a messy game. I mean, they still pulled off a win against the Panthers, which doesn't impress anyone, you know. But the Giants defense has so many holes in coverage that I cannot believe the Packers lost to them.
Yeah, the Giants are playing with confidence though. A 3-game winning streak now. Tommy DeVito mania. There were so many shots of his agent and his dad and in the stands. Everyone's loving the Tommy DeVito. They got a big win. He made that big throw to get him into field goal position.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing with confidence. The Saints though, we talk about it every week how the Panthers are that get right game, and it doesn't matter. The Bucks beat the Panthers by 3. The Saints got to win. Just get that win, snap your losing streak, and get some positive vibes in the locker room. Can the Saints, snowball that with a win here against the Giants? I picked the Saints in the preseason to win the division. I'm riding with it. Let's go Saints at home against the Giants. Taysom Hill will be back, so that's a big boost for the Saints as well. But again, a tough, hard-fought game. We'll see if the Saints can do enough to get the win.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna pick the Giants here, and not because I trust Tommy or because I'm on the Tommy bandwagon, but I've been really impressed with Wink Martindale's defense. They
Mm-hmm.
have pulled together some really amazing stops, especially red zone stops, over the past month. And I feel like they're kind of at the point where they just kind of want to wreck other people's seasons. And
Yeah,
that Saints passing offense has really been struggling. I mean, Derek Carr had 37 passing yards through most of Sunday's game. Um,
yeah,
Late in the game, there was Jimmy Graham and Chris Olave touchdown, so he finished with 119. But I mean, over 2/3 of the way through the game, he had less than 50 passing yards. So he kind of waited till garbage time to start actually playing. And I don't know if you can do that against a defense that has been really efficient the past month. So I'm interested to see how this plays out here. And Saquon Barkley is really hitting his stride right now, which is annoying to the Packers fans who are listening right now. But I mean, Tommy DeVito, 7 passing touchdowns and 4 career starts. And we have seen all of these starting comeback quarterbacks who have had these amazing starts have a week where they fall off. I mean, we saw it with Dobbs. Will Levis's time is coming, you know. So I don't think this is Tommy's week. So I'm gonna pick the Giants here and just see how that plays out.
okay. I mean, I'll take it. I need to catch up with you somehow. So let's, come on, Saints, get that win. We're rooting for the NFC South this week. Let's go Saints. Let's go Bucks.
All right.
Speaking of the NFC, or let's go real quick. Chiefs at Patriots. Chiefs have lost 2 in a row and 4 of their last 6. We've seen the Chiefs struggle before, but that's usually in September, early October. Rarely have we seen the Chiefs not playing their best football in December. And if they can't beat the Patriots, a 3-win Patriots in Foxborough, we thought Mahomes was a crybaby last week. He's going to be shedding real tears if they go on a 3-game losing streak and lose to the Bill Belichick, Bailey Zappi Patriots. Do you think the Chiefs can do enough to get this win in Foxborough? No Isaiah Pacheco out this week once again.
I mean, Pacheco. So this game pertains to my fantasy football team. I just released Pacheco. I picked up Ezekiel Elliott off the waiver wire.
There you
Obviously, he
go.
was available because, the Patriots have been garbage. He hasn't been producing, but the last 2 weeks he's had 21 carries,
Yeah.
21 touches in both games. So, it's a good week to pick him up. So while I do think the Chiefs will pull off a win here, I think it's kind of a get right game for them. Losing Pacheco is going to be a tough loss for them, but I do think I mean, I can see the Chiefs having a rough start in this one, but I don't think the Pats will stick around long enough to hold it off. Something that's intriguing here is this is the first time a Monday Night Football game has ever been flexed to a Sunday. So this was
Yeah,
supposed to be Monday Night Football. Coming into this season, it looked like a great matchup, but because the Pats have been such a mess, they flexed it out of Monday night. And I feel like we're all pretty thankful for that.
absolutely. No one wants to watch this game on Monday night, and the only reason it would be fun to watch is to see the Chiefs go on a 3-game losing streak. But I think I'm with you. I think the Chiefs do just enough, to win 17-10 or 20-13. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are playing good football, but I don't think the Patriots are going to consistently be able to score enough. 21 points last week in the first half was an explosion for that Patriots team. Against a good Chiefs defense, I think Kansas City finds a way to get the win, but some real issues over there. And if they don't win this one, all hell's gonna break loose. And I'm kind of rooting for that. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs, but I'm gonna find some Patriots gear somewhere and throw it on for this one.
I mean, we've seen the Chiefs go through some real tough stuff this season. I mean, injuries, bad coaching,
Yeah,
miscommunications, in games against teams that have had won fewer than 6 games, they're 4-0 though. So I mean, obviously the Pats have won way less than 6 games this season. So I mean, the Chiefs are pretty good against bad teams. And what's interesting here is Bailey Zappi. Well, okay, the Patriots quarterbacks, plural, have been sacked 14 times over the past 4 games, but the Chiefs are third in sacks in the league. So I think
yeah.
Bailey Zappi may not make it the whole game in this one. So we're used to seeing them swap quarterbacks in and out in New England, but they might have to out of necessity here.
Yeah, and sure, the Chiefs can beat bad teams. They can do just enough to get this win, but it's very concerning, I think, this year more than ever. And I think that's part of the reason we saw Mahomes freak out the way he did is he can see it. This Chiefs team isn't the same team of years past, and they're going to be in for a tough ride to the rest of the season and into the playoffs. And Denver is nipping at their heels, so they better win this game.
Yeah, and I think this will be a good game for Travis Kelce, just for his, personal records and stuff. I feel like he'll break out in this game. I don't think the media issues are going to be there. They said Taylor Swift isn't coming, but he's 6 receptions shy of 900 for his career, and he is 2 receiving touchdowns short of Tony Gonzalez for the most in Chiefs history. So I can feel, Travis Kelce really trying to get the offense going and getting pumped, and just trying to be productive and hit those personal goals. So definitely rolling with the Chiefs here.
Yeah, and maybe him and Taylor Swift are on the outs. I mean, it's the middle of the regular season, and he didn't go to her birthday party, so I don't know.
I like that the breaking news was that he missed her birthday party, and they're like, shocking. E News discovers that Travis Kelce has a day job. Like, ooh, big fucking whoop. Like, that was so stupid.
Yeah,
I
it was
am so
funny.
glad he didn't go in the middle of his, season. Like, if he went, I would lose so much respect for that organization for letting him go. Like, are you shitting me? No.
Yeah, but I mean, they've done stuff like that before. They lost a game where Kelsey on their bye week went to like Spain or Italy or something, and it's like, man, this Chiefs team is becoming a little too Hollywood for their own good, in my opinion.
Yeah, they got too many commercials. Bring him back down to earth.
Yeah, get a couple more jabs there, Kelsey. Maybe you guys will start winning.
All right, so
Anyways,
you
had to
want
throw
you
that
wanted to
in there.
wrap up the NFC South, so why don't you talk to me about Falcons at Panthers?
Yes, Falcons at Panthers, the game of the week, right? Aren't you excited?
You just made me choke on my tea.
These 6-7 Falcons at the 1-12 Panthers. We say it every week. You play the Panthers, it's your get right game. Uh, and the Falcons, coming off a tough loss to Tampa Bay, a game they feel like they should have won. Um, this is definitely a get right game. Get back to 500, beat the lowly Panthers. And yeah, there's not much more to say about this game. Carolina can't be trusted to beat anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that defeat last week had to really piss them off. Obviously, they know this is kind of a trap game because the Panthers will do anything to trip them up. But I mean, their running game has been improving. Their defense is getting a bit better. I think they'll absolutely pull off the win here. And I mean, is
Yeah.
there anything
This
to say about the Panthers?
this is one of those moments where they're not looking past the Panthers, they're looking forward to the Panthers, right?
Yeah, and I mean with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, I think that run defense in Carolina is going to be ragged by the end of this game. So I think they're going to enjoy this game, have a little bit of fun, maybe run up the scoreboard a little bit just to kind of get back into the swing of things. So yeah, rolling with Atlanta here. If anyone is picking Carolina, I would love to hear why in the comments. Please, tweet at Alex, tweet at the podcast. Let us know why you would pick Carolina here because I am intrigued.
Yeah, hey, I mean, there's people out there that don't trust the Falcons either, and don't trust Desmond Ritter. I mean, hey, if the Falcons do lose this, what a backbreaker that would be.
I mean, I don't trust Desmond Ritter as a whole, but against the 1-12 Panthers, yes, please.
Yeah.
So
Commanders
I'll put
at
you down for the Panthers, right, Alex? Okay, cool.
No, don't do it. I'm having a hard enough time catching you as it is, so I'm not putting my faith in the fighting Bryce Youngs.
Oof.
Um, Commanders at Rams. I'm going to put you down as a Sam Howell believer, and the
No.
Commanders to go into LA and get the dub.
No, I have the Rams in all caps here, no question marks. That struggling pass defense in Washington right now is yeah. I mean, the Rams almost pulled off a win last week. They went score for score with the Ravens. What was it, 9 lead changes, 37-31 overtime. Like the Rams had everything in that game except for an amazing punt return for a touchdown on the third possession of overtime. Like, so, if the Rams can go head to head with the Ravens, I mean, the Commanders are
Mhm.
about to get their pants beat off.
Yeah, they're going to be upset. That was a big missed opportunity. They were riding a hot streak. If they had won that game, then everyone would be believing in the Rams. Instead, you lose a tough game, and now you're below 500. And so I think they're going to be on edge in that building, in that locker room. McVay's going to have them ready to go. And yeah, I think they beat the Commanders pretty easily and get back to 500 and keep the pressure on the Seahawks and try to sneak into the playoffs. So, yeah, we agree. Rams should win this one.
Yeah, the Commanders will extend their 4-game losing streak to a 5-game losing streak, and I can see Matt Stafford, Rams quarterback. I mean, he's thrown at least 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games. I think it's going to be at least 3 or 4 in this one as well.
Yeah, maybe even 4 or 5.
Yeah, might be another a repeat of that Raiders game.
Yeah, Commanders, nothing really to look out for there. Maybe Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell can put up some points and keep it interesting, but I still think if it's a shootout, the Rams are going to win the shootout. So.
One interesting storyline about Sam Howell, if he is sacked twice this weekend, he would be the 4th different player, the 5th instance, one of them was sacked twice or hit this number twice, of a quarterback taking at least 60 sacks through their first 14 games of a season. So, he could be up there with the greats.
Yeah, and that's a recipe to ruin a franchise quarterback. Like you draft Sam Howell and say, hey, maybe he's our guy, but you can't protect him all season long, and he just takes sack after sack after sack. We saw that happen to David Carr. We've seen Justin Fields going through it. Like it's not good for quarterback development, and so the Commanders are going to be hiring a brand new staff and hopefully incentivizing the offensive line to give Sam Howell some protection going forward, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about how, they have the most pass attempts, the most interceptions, these quarterbacks having all these different numbers. Protecting your quarterback and giving him time where he feels comfortable and confident in his receivers and that he's not going to take a sack.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing improves a quarterback's accuracy more than having a couple seconds to figure out where the fuck he wants to throw the ball.
Yeah, that should be priority number one. So,
Yeah.
um,
Definitely rolling with the Rams here. A matchup that, I can absolutely see you taking the home team. You know, we've got the 10-3 49ers at the 3-10 Cardinals. I like the mirror image of their records there. So you're for sure rolling with Arizona here, right?
Well, so this is a classic example of it's a division rivalry game, and don't look past Arizona. I know it's easy to do so. The Niners are playing the best football in the NFL. And guess what's next week? We get a Christmas present as Christmas night, a potential Super Bowl preview, Niners and Ravens.
Oh,
That's
I
gonna
can't
be,
fucking wait.
yeah, that's gonna be fire. So do the Niners potentially look past Arizona, getting ready for that Ravens Christmas game, making plans with family for Christmas vacation and all that? Um, do they look past Arizona at all? I think they can look past Arizona and still win by 2 touchdowns, but Kyler Murray is capable of playing a good game and throwing up some numbers. Give me the Niners, but don't get too drunk on eggnog before this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Niners are going to be less productive. They're going to be, taking it easy. I don't think they're going to be trying to roll up the scoreboard and risking injuries. But I mean, they're in a 5-game win streak. They've beaten each of those opponents by 12 points. I mean, that's the Jags, the Bucks, Seattle twice, the Eagles. They've been playing and beating by 2 scores good teams, great
Yeah.
teams. So I don't think there's any way that the Cardinals upsets this. I mean, maybe within a 2-score game, just because they're, off the brakes a little bit so they don't risk injuries. But yeah, there's no way the Cardinals pull off a win here.
Yeah, I could see the Cardinals being pesky, staying in the game, hanging in there until late, and maybe the Niners put them away late, or maybe the Niners roll over them, like a dump truck. But I could see the Cardinals being pesky, but I'm with you. We're gonna take the 49ers here.
All right, so agreed there. This
So
matchup, I can see a lot of people have been arguing back and forth on. So the 10-3 Cowboys at the 7-6 Bills. I mean,
I can't wait for this game.
I am stoked. I am so ready
Yeah.
for this game. I mean, we saw both of these teams win last week. Marquee matchups. I mean, the Eagles, the Chiefs, like those were both prove it games for both of them, and they proved it. So now, they're facing off against each other, big time, some of the best teams of the NFC versus the AFC. I love those matchups. These like potential Super Bowl matchups, like you just mentioned, for like the Niners versus the Ravens. Like we love to see those like top of the conference teams matching up. Obviously I just said potential Super Bowl matchups and Cowboys in the same sentence. No, I do not think the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. However,
Hey, right now.
technically, they're one of the best teams in the NFC right now. So, there's a chance. How do you feel about this matchup?
Well, the Cowboys are such a good home team. I believe they're undefeated at home this year. Uh, so how do you prove everybody wrong and ensure that you have a chance to actually go to a Super Bowl? By closing out the season strong, winning the games you're supposed to win, and hosting playoff games in Dallas, right? They've always played on the road, and it's come back to bite them. And this is a game you have to win in order to win the division and host playoff games. But they're 3-3 on the road, and in Buffalo, where it could be cold, it could be windy, whatever. And Buffalo is desperate, and Buffalo, it has an opportunity here to be peaking at the right time. They beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead last week. They're coming home with another big time matchup. And if you win this, Bill, suddenly you've got all the positive momentum. And we talked about this with Andre Reed in our season preview, how important it is to be playing your best football at the right time. You can stumble in September, October, even early November, but come December, January, you need to be hitting on all strides. And this is an opportunity for the Bills to start hitting it on all strides. Take that momentum from beating the Chiefs, and if you come out of this with a win over the Cowboys, suddenly everyone's going to be like, uh-oh, here come Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So Dallas is so much better at home. This is in Buffalo. Give me the Bills here.
So I have the Bills here too, and I was watching the weather. I mean, each day, like kind of keeping an eye on that. So as you know, it's going to be cold and windy and rainy. Every day that I'm keeping a track of that, I'm losing faith in that offense. I mean, so not only is their offense, better at home, that defense
Hmm.
will need to be able to limit Josh Allen and James Cook in the backfield. And we've had issues with that Dallas rush defense all season. And I can feel the Bills, Jesus Christ, mixing sports here. I can feel them seeing this as a must win and being real. I mean, they were not favored to beat the Chiefs last week. The Chiefs were favored in
Yeah.
that matchup. The Cowboys were favored to beat the Eagles and they pulled off a win. Like not as big of a story. But the Bills went into Arrowhead and beat them up. I can see the Bills kind of riding that and feeling like the morale boost and feeling cohesive and like the team spirit. I can see them pulling this one off, especially at home in the weather with
Yeah.
a spoiled Texas team. So yeah, I'm rolling with the Bills here.
Yeah, all the talk has been on Josh Allen and his turnover issues, leading the league with 14 interceptions. But to me, this is a Dak Prescott's been red hot, right? This is we get back to reality game, and this is where Dak Prescott might turn the ball over a couple times outside in the cold, and I just believe that the Cowboys are such a better home team than they are on the road, and their record indicates it. And you've got a desperate, hungry Bills team trying to catch the Dolphins, and they'll know before this game if the Jets win over Miami, or even if Miami wins, the Bills are going to be desperate to stay on pace with Miami and not let the Dolphins run away with this division. I agree with you. Let's go Bills at home against Dallas. This is Skip Bayless crying about some calls or whatever, where the Cowboys come back down to earth a little bit and that winning streak gets snapped.
Oh, we might need to watch this one on mute. I don't know who's commentating, but I have a feeling. Um
Jim
and
Nance and Romo,
I figured it was
you
Romo.
already
I
know.
mean, Romo's not too much of a homer. I mean, there are worse people to have on this game. I do like Romo on the mic for the most part, but I'm intrigued by this one. So there have been 5 instances this season where the Cowboys have let quarterbacks run for more than, I believe the number was 35 yards. And we
Hmm.
know how Josh Allen is on his feet. I mean, Dobbs put up, I think, 50 yards against them. Um, so I can see Josh Allen kind of carrying the team a little bit here and taking advantage of the distraction with that rain and stuff. So I'm excited to have Josh Allen have an amazing game here.
Yeah, and we talk about announcers calling games. I'm just glad that we get a week off of the Chris Collinsworth Patrick Mahomes love fest.
Oh
Uh,
God.
that'll be refreshing not to hear him talk about Mahomes for a week. I can deal with Romo talking about Josh Allen and Dak Prescott. That's better than with Mahomes. I mean,
Oh
my
my God,
God.
that Packers game, I was shrieking at the TV because like Mahomes would do something absolutely stupid and he'd be like, "Well, you see what happened here was the defense." No, 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 Mahomes just made a mistake. You can admit it. Like it's fine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh God, I cannot stand Collinsworth and his obsession with Mahomes.
Now
All right, but
you
before
know
we
how I
get
used to feel about Joe Buck's obsession with Aaron
oh,
Rodgers in
dude,
Green
Joe,
Bay. So,
back when there was all the rumors about Aaron Rodgers being gay with his, longtime male roommate and stuff, I was like, man, Joe Buck is in the closet and is very jealous. He was obsessed. Like he had a shrine of Aaron Rodgers in his basement somewhere behind a hidden wall. Like the the obsession of announcers and broadcasters with certain NFL players, like we get it. We're
yeah,
fans. But when you are presenting information about the NFL to the public and you are their source of information, you cannot be that subjective in your opinions and your broadcasting and your reviews of games.
yeah,
Like you need to be
100%.
objective and you need to state the facts and not have so much personal opinion and obsession mixed in. It makes me crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And so luckily we get a week off from that. And yeah, Bills Cowboys, that's right up there, game of the week. That's going to be so much fun.
Another game that, could have been really fun, but I'm kind of concerned about now. 10-3 Ravens at the 8-5 Jags. And I had been looking forward to this game for a while. But I mean, Trevor Lawrence right now, struggling with that injury recovery. I mean, he could not take care of the ball against the Browns last week, and I don't see that changing. I mean, that Ravens defense leads the league in sacks. And I think Lawrence is going to be taking a lot of heat with that ankle injury. I can see him throwing the ball away a lot. I see a lot of 3-and-outs. How are you feeling about this one?
You are in for a surprise, Amanda. Watch this game. Your preconceived notions are going to be wrong as the Jags are going to take care of business and beat the red hot Ravens. Uh, Trevor Lawrence, a week to get that ankle more healthy. A lot of people, the Trevor Lawrence talk this year especially is just wild to me. So many people on Twitter and national media that disrespect Trevor Lawrence. And the fact that he was even able to play last week is a testament to his work ethic, the way he takes care of his body, and his commitment to the game. And this is a big opportunity for Jacksonville. And you know how it's such a week to week league of overreactions. Everyone's going to be on the Jags nuts this week after they beat the Ravens on Sunday Night Football on national TV for everyone to see. I'm going Jacksonville all the way.
Okay. I am not doubting Trevor Lawrence. I love his work ethic. Last week I compared it to Brett Favre playing through, the death of his father.
Yeah.
Like, I love Trevor Lawrence. I am not saying that I'm not doubting him at all. I am saying he is still injured. And I'm concerned about that injury because I know he is better, but that's not a 1 week injury. That's a 3 to 4 week. If you play through it, that's fucking amazing. And everyone is absolutely impressed. It's respectable as hell. I just think that he's not going to be wanting to take a hit. And we saw, him against a pretty tough defense last week, and I'm just concerned about him. I'm not saying
I
he's going to throw a
agree.
bunch of picks. I just said I could see some 3-and-outs and him
No,
take
I'm
the
not.
heat. That's all I
I'm
said.
not
I didn't
saying
say he was
you're
going
a.
to throw 6 picks. I didn't say he was going to have a shitty game. I like Trevor Lawrence, first of all. But I mean, Lamar Jackson is coming off one of his best games of the year, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think the Ravens are coming into this red hot, and I do think that Trevor Lawrence is limited a bit by that ankle still.
No, I agree, and I
So don't
just
come
think
at me, okay?
no, you're taking it. You're taking it like I'm saying you are saying
Oh, I
Trevor
know.
Lawrence, isn't it?
I just wanted to
No, you.
clarify for the listeners that I have a shitload of respect for Trevor Lawrence. I think he's amazing. His active game streak is respectable. I just think, that's an injury that takes more than 1 week to heal, more than 2 weeks to heal. So I just think it'll still limit him a little bit.
I am. I mean, I agree. It's going to limit him, but I think we see vintage Trevor Lawrence here. I think that he balls out. I think in Cleveland, in windy outside Browns, that's tough. And this game, you're prime time. South Florida, Jacksonville is much more conducive to Trevor Lawrence, to Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley. This Ravens team, if you remember, gave up a lot of passing yards and a lot of points to the Rams and almost lost that game in the rain. What that was in Baltimore, right?
Yeah,
The
but their O
the
line was
Ravens,
healthier then.
yeah, the Ravens are on a 3 game winning streak. They won 7 of the last 8. At some point, they're going to come back down to earth and lose a game. And this is a perfect recipe for it, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be hard fought. And I think Jacksonville finds a way to win by 3 points or so. And the media is going to be all over Trevor Lawrence nuts. And let's not forget the Jags are still in competition to finish with the number 1 seed in the AFC. And if the Dolphins trip up and it's an opportunity for the Ravens to trip up, the Jags could get a lot closer to that 1 seed, which they desperately want. No Christian Kirk doesn't help. He's on IR, but they still have plenty of weapons with Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, guys like that, even rookie Parker Washington. I'm a big Ravens fan all year long, but I feel strongly about this one. Jacksonville at home on Sunday night.
Okay. I feel strongly that you're wrong. Baltimore leads the league in sacks, which, I mean, that Jags O-line early in the season, they were doing their job. However, they're on their fourth left tackle, their third left guard, because people are out for the season, injuries week after week. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been sacked 31 times this season. His career high was in 2021, 32. So he's about
Hmm.
to hit his career high sack number in week 15.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, another issue here is the Jacksonville defense has allowed 265 passing yards per game, which is second worst in the NFL. And they've given
Hmm.
up 300 yards through the air in each of their last 3 games. I just don't think that defense has gotten that much better since last week.
Yeah, and it's going to be up to Josh Allen. They're going to have to get some pressure, contain Lamar Jackson. Don't let him, most importantly, use his legs, right? That's, the thing that you can't allow. And we'll see if Trevor Lawrence can use his legs. They're going to need him to against that pass rush. This is a good game for us, too, because we both know ball. Like, that's why I love having you on because you know what you're talking about, and I know what I'm talking about, and so whoever wins this, we'll give each other a credit for picking this game.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, honestly, if you're right and Trevor Lawrence is fully ready to play and he's recovered, then I would probably be on the Jags bandwagon here. But I worry about him not being fully recovered and not being mobile. If he's mobile, he can run against that defense. I know they're
yeah,
the second ranked defense, but I mean, against the Browns, he was quite injured and he was still relatively like active. But I worry about that injury, so I'm gonna stick with the Ravens here.
all right. This is a gut pick for me, and
Okay. Hey,
from
sometimes that
from
pays off, man. You listen to your intuition.
yeah, from watching a lot of football, right? And so, um, yeah. Either
Okay.
way, we'll give each other props for this one.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, I am completely in agreement with both of our statements. I don't think we're arguing about anything. I think you have
yeah.
more faith that he's recovered from his injury than I do. Maybe because my left ankle it gets sprained if I look at it funny. So, um,
I'm
maybe
just
maybe that's
excited
a
about being within like 3 games after this week. That's what I'm excited about.
that's so cute, guys. How many weeks in a row has he said this now? 6, 7.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but this is the week.
let's talk the battle of the birds, man. We got the 10-3 Eagles about the at the 6-7 Seahawks, 12th man at home. We've seen Philly's offense have some issues with running the ball. Sticking with the run has been kind of an issue. Hurts has had some injury issues. We've seen Seattle pretty banged up. Have they officially announced who's the starting quarterback in this matchup?
It's trending towards Geno Smith being back.
Okay.
So that's the good news. Um, but and yeah, the Seahawks, both teams on a losing streak, which is shocking. The 2-game losing streak for the Eagles, who both those losses are by 20 plus.
Mm-hmm.
4-game losing streak for Seattle. They need Geno Smith back. Although Drew Lock didn't look too bad replacing him, but still, obviously in this matchup, you need Geno Smith. To me, the Eagles' defense is reeling right now. Like they can't contain anybody, and Kenneth Walker being back definitely helps boost Seattle. DK Metcalf has been going crazy of late. Not
Tyler
just
Lockett has been
yeah,
finding
Tyler
his
Lockett,
roots.
Smith and Jigba, even Zach
Yeah.
Charbonnet. Um, and back-to-back games, the Eagles have scored under 20 points as well. Seattle's playoff hopes are not dead, and they need to hang in there with the Rams. Give me the Seahawks at home.
So I have not officially picked this one yet, just because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I trust the Seattle receivers against that, struggling Eagles secondary. We've seen them give up a lot of good plays, but I do think the past two games that they've lost to the Cowboys and the Niners, I think those are better teams than Seattle.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm very concerned that Drew Lock starts.
Yeah,
I know when he stepped in, he's had a couple good plays so far. So I'm gonna stick with the Eagles in the fear that Drew Lock starts. Just because I don't trust the kid. But I mean, I if Geno Smith starts, I might switch my pick at the last minute here, just because from what I've read, it sounds like he's a game time decision, and I never trust those when it's a quarterback.
yeah, yeah. They need Geno Smith in this one. I just feel like Philly, the Eagles might have some issues right now. Like not only on defense but on offense too. And I don't really trust the Eagles at this moment. Now, they can get those issues fixed in time for the playoffs and still be a contender. Absolutely. But right now at this moment, I don't trust the Eagles. I thought they were going to be more competitive against the Niners. I definitely thought they were going to be a lot more competitive against Dallas. I
Yeah,
mean,
what's
I
interesting
tweeted,
is you and I picked those games correctly.
yeah,
We
but
thought they would be closer, but
yeah,
we were right about both of those losses.
and I tweeted, I said the Eagles are getting their ass kicked for the second week in a row. It's not like they're just barely getting beat and they're, it's very competitive or whatever. They were getting straight up their ass kicked. 20-point losses 2 weeks in a row. And in Seattle in December with Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf and those boys,
Mhm.
I don't know. Give me Seattle at home.
Okay. I mean, I'm rolling with Seattle if Geno starts. So I'll just clarify that on here. If I'm not a Drew Lock fan, I don't trust him at all. So if he starts, I might recant that statement. But something that I really like about this matchup with Seattle with Geno Smith starting is the Eagles pass defense, 28th in the NFL. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they have a huge weak spot in the middle, and Smith and Jigba lies up in the slot on almost 70% of his snaps. So I can see him just running off with, some deep balls there. And that would be not great for that pass defense in Philly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like Philly is more focused on their own division right now. I
Yeah.
mean, a win would help them, but I feel like they're probably underestimating Seattle here.
Yeah, they could be. I mean, they need to be pissed off though. After those two losses, their pride, their ego is probably hit right now in Philly. And I don't know if they can. I mean, this is a tougher matchup. Looking on paper, you see the 6-7 Seahawks on a 4-game losing streak, and a lot of the casuals, a lot of the people that aren't paying close attention, they're just going to take Philly here, you know? But we know football, and that's not an easy win in Seattle in December, right? So Pete Carroll's going to have them ready to go. I just feel like it's going to be a tough game to win. And the Eagles are just kind of reeling right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those situations where people who aren't fully invested in the game and don't really understand what's going on, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, the Eagles are 10-3, Seattle 6-7." But this
Hmm.
this matchup has so many different like underlying stories. Like who do you trust more as a coach? Like that secondary is very concerning. Obviously, Seattle has some great running backs. But the Eagles are great against the run, so they'll have to step to their receivers who are amazing. I mean, that trio of the receiving core is absolutely insane. I mean, DK Metcalf has some of the
Yeah.
most insane catches I've seen, and like the
Yep.
fastest run on a reception this year. Like, how are you going to beat Tyreek Hill? Like, that's
Yeah.
insane.
At that size.
Yeah, he's huge. Like, so I mean, I'm real concerned about the Eagles secondary. And something else that's interesting is two leading candidates for defensive rookie of the year. Seattle's cornerback Devin Witherspoon, fifth overall pick. He's got 3 sacks, 16 passes defensed, and a 97-yard pick six. On the other side of the ball, we've got Jalen Carter. He was taken the ninth overall pick, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and the fourth best pass rush win rate among all interior defenders in the NFL this season. So they're both
Yeah.
up there in the top five right now in the conversation. And I mean, this is a national audience, so they're both going to be wanting to have a great night. And I think this game might be a deciding factor in who's in the lead there for that defensive rookie of the year position.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if the Eagles are still concerned about those, are worried about those character concerns of Jalen Carter and why he fell in the draft at this moment.
Mhm.
Um, Two things to keep an eye on for football fans here as we get into December around Christmas, going into January and Week 18, the playoffs coming down the line. Keep an eye on the AFC East. That Dolphins Bills battle for first place is not over. Miami does not have that one in the bag. Even if they beat the Jets, the Dolphins' final 3 games are let me pull this up. It is not easy. They're at the or versus the Cowboys, at the Ravens versus the Bills. Even if they somehow win that division, they could go into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. Um, and versus the Jets on Sunday isn't in the bag either. So the Dolphins, they blew a game to the Titans. If they somehow lose to the Jets, I will be screaming about a Dolphins collapse on deck if they lose to the Jets. I'm just saying. I'm not a big believer, and I don't think Mike McDaniel is a big culture guy over there in Miami. I think it's too reliant on Tyreek Hill. And if you
Mhm.
lose to the Jets and the Titans in back-to-back weeks, how the hell are you supposed to beat the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills, right?
What's interesting is the national media jumped all over the Dolphins kind of like win streak and, that really strong offense they were showing, but they weren't beating teams who were showing up in the
Yep.
games. I mean, like Denver is way better than that, what, 70-20
Yeah.
loss? Like they lost by 50 points, but I mean, Denver was just not, they didn't have their team fully put together yet. So
That was their last like real impressive win.
yeah, and it wasn't against a good team. And most of those impressive like scoreboard wins that they've had were not against impressive teams. So I mean, I haven't believed in Miami since the start of the season.
Yep. Well,
Like,
and I've got some history there. I last season I called the Dolphins frauds, and they got out to such a hot start, and I kept calling them frauds. And my co-host was like, "No, the Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders. They're red hot, blah blah blah." And winning streak or losing streak, and
mhm.
and going to the playoffs and lose right away. And I just don't. I fundamentally don't trust the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, ownership or GM or like what's going on there, but they're always so inflated. Like their numbers
Yeah.
look so good, but then they never do anything with it. They're like you can't trust them. There's nothing concrete there. They're all
Yeah.
fluff.
Yeah, and it'll be cool if we can get OJ McDuffie back on come week 18 or playoffs.
Yeah, send him the clip of me calling the Dolphins fluff and see if he has a response to that. Sorry, OJ, just how I feel, man.
And then the other one, the NFC North, that is not wrapped up. Everyone said it was wrapped up. Even I said it was wrapped up. And if the national media can go back and listen to their takes in October, calling the Lions Super Bowl contenders, if they lose this week to the Broncos tomorrow night, and the Vikings win tomorrow against the Bengals, I'm telling you what, that NFC North is not locked up, and it won't surprise me one bit if the Minnesota Vikings, of all people, win that division, or maybe Green Bay. Both those teams are still alive, and Detroit is flinging the door open, saying, "Somebody, please come take it from us. We've never won the NFC North. We don't know how to win the NFC North, and we don't want that responsibility. Someone come steal it from us."
So if Kirk Cousins was still in, Minnesota was my pick to win the division this year.
Yeah.
I'm so sad for Minnesota fans and for Kirk for being out. I did see that somebody made him a gold chain with Cole's Cash on it, which I love for him. But I mean, what a devastating season for the Minnesota Vikings. So I mean, if they can scrap together some wins here, like I
Yeah.
don't know if they're a postseason team. But
No.
maybe pulling off the division. I mean, Green Bay had a really hot 3-game streak. I mean, we had a hot 3-game streak towards the beginning of the season and then we sucked. And, Green Bay is a pain in my butt. But if we play again, if last week was just an off week, blame it on the wind. And then we come back and start playing like we did for the 3 weeks before that. Like I could see Green Bay going on a run. I thought they were going to go
Yeah.
on a run, including the Giants. The Giants were a game I was pretty confident in them
But
winning, and then
their schedule is favorable.
it is. So the
Beat the
division is
Bucks.
interesting. I do not see
You're,
Chicago winning the division though, so we'll just get that out there for everyone.
well,
Um,
Chicago's definitely not winning the division.
I was just gonna say Alex agrees with me. He wants the season to be scrapped so they get rid of some coaching. But yeah, it's an interesting division. A lot of possible movement there.
I mean, if you beat Tampa Bay on Sunday at Carolina, in the bag, versus Chicago week 18 in the bag, it really comes down to week 17 at Minnesota. So let's say the Vikings beat the Bengals. Let's say the Vikings beat the Lions in Minnesota. Week 17, Packers at Vikings. You're going to be screaming at your TV on that one.
I do that a lot. It's a pretty standard week to week thing. I get too emotionally invested in games. But
But
I
either
I
way, it's going to be such a fun end of the season. I can't wait.
I love the NFC North. Like it's so scrappy. There's always like movement. The last couple of weeks always decide somebody's fate. Usually it's, somebody getting their heart broken by Green Bay. But I mean, it is a very new regime. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see
Prove
how it
it
plays out.
time for a lot of these people. Prove it time for Dan Campbell and the Lions and Jared Goff. And I just love it because the national media has been all over Detroit's nuts all season. And I've been the one voice of reason. And people are calling me crazy all season long. And yet here we are. Let's go, Denver Broncos.
Yeah. So for our listeners, we would love to hear your takes on the AFC West, the NFC North, and the NFC South. Like who do you
Yep.
see winning these close, scrappy divisions?
And the
Um,
AFC East.
yeah, AFC East too.
Yep.
Because these are all like, I mean, obviously, like the Jets have their own interesting storyline, and the Miami is sus. Like, so that division's up in the air as well. Like, there's so many interesting moves and record changes that could happen in the next 4 weeks. So we would love to hear your thoughts. So shoot us a DM, post a comment, let us know what you're thinking, and send this to your friends if they're Miami fans, and let them respond about our Miami hate. Not that we hate them, we just don't trust them. But yeah, we'd love
Yeah.
to some more interaction from you guys.
Yeah, we need to get John Abraham, former Falcon, former Jet, get him on here, get his opinion on some of this. And we all know Josh Gonzalez is believing in the Detroit Lions like crazy. So I'd like to get his take as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, good shit as always, Amanda. That was a fun episode, and let's enjoy some football tomorrow and Sunday.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
All right. Peace out, guys.